It's me again. It's Mr. Northwood Shaman. The one and only Northwood Shaman. In this video, and this is coming entirely like out of the spontaneity of this moment. I don't know where this is coming from. But I want to talk about the illusion of getting old, or at least what seems to me to be the illusion of getting old and growing up. And really just kind of pondering on, what does it mean to grow up? What does it mean to be old or to get old? What does all that entail? And just to tell you guys, to kind of like give you insight into why I feel towards this the way I do, is I remember very specifically, and also just to let you know, I'm 22 years old. I'm a young buck. I don't know nothing. I'm a little kid. When I remember very specifically being 12 years old, around 12 years old, and you all know, around that age is when you begin to kind of shift a little bit. You know, you hit puberty and the way you act starts to change, and you know, you don't play as much. You get more interested in girls or boys than you do with your toys and the games that you play. You get interested in sports and making friends and sort of the social scene of school at that age range, you know? And I remember being 12 years old and feeling the feeling within me of, like, I want to play with my toys. I want to play with my little action figures and my Pokemon cards, and I want to go outside and pretend I'm a wizard or a ninja or all the things I used to do. I wanted to do that, but it was starting to feel like I didn't want to. It was starting to feel like I didn't want to do that. I wanted to, but I didn't want to at the same time. And I guess the best way I can describe that is, imagine picking up a toy that you used to play with, whether you're a girl and it was like a doll or something, or if you were a boy and it was a little hot box, like a Hot Wheels car, hot box, like a little car or an action figure or whatever it was. Imagine right now, and I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're a little bit, you know, older, and you don't actively play with toys, but imagine picking that toy up right now and trying to play with it the way you used to as a kid. I don't know about you guys, but I've tried to do that. You know, you pick up the toy and you try to play with it and animate it and imagine the scene of it and stuff. And it feels weird. It feels alien. It feels foreign to play with the toys. And when I initially began feeling this as a 12-year-old boy, and I remember this, it was devastating to me. It was heart-wrenching, because what was happening was I didn't want to grow up. I didn't want to get older. I didn't want to grow out of my toys and my imagination and my playfulness and pretending and being like a little bitty kid, that, you know what I mean? I didn't want to let go of that. But in the throes of the sequence of life, and I guess we could also say just like the conditioning of school and friends and culture and stuff of how a 12-year-old is supposed to act, I was starting to feel this feeling of moving out of being a little kid, and it tore me apart. I was torn, where I don't want to grow up. I want to be this little kid. I don't want to fucking not, like, I didn't want to grow up. I didn't want to move into this thing that it seemed like, in a way, I was being forced to move into. And nobody taught me that. Nobody taught me to fear growing up. It was inherent within me, where when I reached 11, 12 years old and felt myself starting to change, I rejected it. I pushed it away. I said, nope, I'm a little kid. I'm not growing up. You know, I like my toys. I like being mama's boy. I'm a little kid. I'm not ready to grow up, you know? And when I felt these feelings of, I remember sitting down and I'm trying to play with my toys, but it feels weird. It feels like boring or something. And it messed with me. I was like, I don't like what's happening to me. I don't like that I'm growing up, you know? And what does it mean to grow up anyway? What does it mean to grow up anyway? What does it mean to be a little kid, first of all? You think of someone that's very imaginative and bumbly and silly and not aware of the big things in the world, and plays and pretends and gets really worked up about something, and then 5 minutes later they're chilling again and it's like it never even happened, and just tons of energy and stuff. What are we growing out of? What does it mean to grow up? What does it mean to get older? I've had this sort of ongoing joke, which probably started around the age of 16, 15 maybe. Because, you know, there's these like levels of ages that you get to where, you know, 13 kind of feels like one where you're initially a teenager. And then you got 16, which just seems like you're a little bit older. You're kind of a seasoned teenager, you know. And then you got 18, which is where you're an adult, whatever that means. You're legally an adult, where you can go to war and you can buy tobacco and you can do all this stuff because you went around the sun 18 times, and for some reason now you're allowed to do this stuff because you're an adult. And I remember I was like 16 years old and I was like, so is something gonna happen when I turn 18? Like, am I gonna like wake up on my 18th birthday and be like here I am, I'm an adult, I grew up, I did it? And I kind of had a feeling in the back of my head that nothing at all was gonna happen whatsoever. And nothing happened. Nothing happened when I was 18. And then I got 18 and I was like, okay, I'm 18, I'm an adult. It doesn't really feel like that, but maybe it's 21. Maybe 21 will be when the thing happens, when the curtains are lifted and it's the great reveal of, oh, okay, I grew up, it happened. And this was only last year, because I'm 22 now. I turned 21, and boom, now I can legally buy weed. I can go and buy enough alcohol at a gas station right now to kill myself tonight. I can do all this. I can do all these things now. But nothing felt different. I turned 21 and I was like, nothing happened. Nothing, no big dramatic, I grew up. And now where I'm at, because I'm 22, you know how they talk about 25? That's when your brain's fully developed and your frontal lobe is completely done. Now I'm going, okay, 25. That's when it's going to happen. 25 is that's when I'll get it. That's when I'll be a grown-up. That's when I'll really fucking know. But as all these years have gone by of growing up and getting older, I have a slight inclination that nothing whatsoever is going to happen at 25 of itself. That's not to say that the way you live your life through these years doesn't have an effect on you. But the number doesn't. There's patterns, of course. There's patterns of, you know, little kids, like babies, little infants, newborns, generally kind of act the same way. They're helpless. They can't walk. They can't talk. They don't scavenge for their own food. They don't know what the fuck they are or what things are. They have sort of energetic imprints of parents and, you know, wanting the mom or wanting the dad and that stuff. babies kind of act the same. Then you got little kids, like we were talking about a minute ago. They kind of have a vibe where they're young and they act a certain way. But there's always outliers. There's always outliers where one kid in the group at his age range is acting different than his peers that are the same age. And it's not the number it's not the amount of times you've gone around the sun that dictates and determines like any sort of level of awareness or intelligence or wisdom. It's not that number that determines that. I feel like the determining factor of those things is a little bit more on like a soul level, where if you're like 50, 60 years old and you're living your life like a child, where you're ignorant and you are mean and uptight and judgmental and you think you know and you're arrogant and all that stuff, and you think you know because you're 60 years old, you're no smarter than a fucking teenager. You're no wiser and more well put together than a rebellious teenager. But because you've whipped around the sun 60 times, you're like, I'm 60, I know. But when you're living your life in a way like you don't fucking know, that just goes to show you that the age doesn't matter in the sense that I'm talking about. And this is a vast subject. But if you're 60 years old and you're acting like a child and you're living in a completely emotionally immature way, that just means you've been ignorant for 60 years. 60 years of itself doesn't mean you're wise. Oh shit. My grandfather's mowing right now. It sounds like he just smacked into something. But yeah, you don't fucking get this download of wisdom at 18 or 21 or 25 or 40 or 60 or 70. You don't get. The age of this body has nothing to do with the experiences that you've undergone and integrated in your life. You know? I think it has more so to do with what we individually as souls are here to do. Where maybe if you're 60 years old and you're living your life in a negative, unconscious, unhealthy, unhelping way, and then going around and saying because you're 60 years old, you know the way, you're meant to be that person. But if you're meant to be, you know, and a lot of people talk about how trauma causes an abrupt maturing of the emotions and the mind and stuff like that. And I feel that to an extent. I feel that of the, just think of like a child that's been babied and in a nurturing, completely pleasurable and fine environment, compared to a child that was in an abusive upbringing, and the thoughts that that child must have had in response to his environment or her environment. And if you're someone that's at a younger age, and it seems like other people around you who perhaps are older aren't like you, you're supposed to be someone that's diving into the stuff that you're diving into at your age, you know what I mean? It's not, this video and this topic might seem a little like wishy-washy over the place, but I feel like you must know what I'm talking about. And what I'm really talking about is just because you've been here for X amount of years, that doesn't mean anything. It means something to the extent that that's how long you've been living out your karmic destiny. That's how long you've been fulfilling the karmic bonds that your life is playing out, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't make any fucking sense at all. I'm just kind of under the impression that, like, we're here to do something. Something's happening. This isn't a fucking accident. We're here on purpose. And when you first start to look into purpose, you soon discover that, like, there really isn't one that you can find, and that you find yourself kind of buying into one or the other. Like, all right, the purpose that Buddhists talk about is pretty cool. All right, no, not that. The purpose that scientists talk about, that's pretty cool. That this is all just, the Big Bang and evolution and physics and gravity and particles, and consciousness is a product of the brain and it's electricity and all that stuff. You buy into that. Or you buy into Hinduism, or you buy into Christianity, or you buy into atheism. Whatever it is, the reason we grab on to all these things that have already been laid out is because we in ourselves can't find a purpose. We don't know what the fuck this is. We hear what someone says this is and say, yeah, I like that. And we say, that this is what I think it is, you know? But yeah, to keep the train of thought that I'm trying to share here is, what does it mean to grow up? Do you really want... When I think of growing up, at least when I was younger, and still kind of so now, it means getting real and serious and acting mature and, coming down to earth and taking care of business and, growing up. The whole vibe that you feel, or that I feel when I hear that statement, grow up. What the fuck does that mean? What does it mean to grow up? Do you mean diffuse my passion and think and get bored and frustrated at life and everyone in it? Do you mean get a job that I hate? Do you mean stop indulging in the things that I find pleasurable because I'm supposed to find a sort of neutral pleasure in all these other things? What do you mean when you say grow up? I mean, I guess what we mean is when you're saying it to someone in that way, grow up, you're saying to get smarter and see my side. Don't you see my side? Don't you see, maybe not even that, maybe don't you see the obvious? Come on, grow up. You're acting like a complete fool. You're acting like a child. I don't have a concrete understanding of what it means to grow up. But I'm aging. I'm growing up. This body is growing. And my life is happening in this certain fashion. I remember one time at my old job where I worked in retail, there was a customer in there and I was joking with my coworker about this whole idea of something's gonna happen at 18, and then I turn 18 and I'm like, okay, nothing happened, maybe it'll happen at 21. And I start talking about that. And I asked this customer, I was like, and he was well into his 40s, maybe even 50s. And I was like, yo man, does something happen when you turn 25? And he looks at me and he's like, nothing happens when you turn 25. And I just fucking rolled back laughing, because it's exactly, nothing happens at certain staple moments of life, When we talk about the brain being fully developed at 25, maybe anatomically and biologically, but even then, it's on a generalized study of looking at like tons of people's brains and saying, okay, the human's brain generally develops and matures at around the age of 25. And is that where you flip from growing to dying? From growth to decay? Where's that little flip point? What if it's at 25 and nothing seems to happen at 25 and you grew up and now you're literally dying? You're declining in physical health and exuberance, you know? What does it mean to grow up? What does it mean to be a kid? I think it has to do with a mindset. It's a space that you're in. It's not how many revolutions around the sun that this gross physical body has done, you know? I've gone around the sun 57 times. I know. It's not that. It's not on that level. But the thing with being old, because you can't, with what I'm saying, you may be able to look at it like I'm just kind of like shitting on like old people or something. But that's not the case whatsoever, because when you are old, the older you are, and this is probably what makes people think in that stereotypical I'm old and I know kind of way, as you age, the amount of experiences and days that you've gone through of things that happen and how you respond to them, you have more of that. You've experienced more of your life. But just because you've experienced 60 years of life or 40 years of life or 10 years of life, that isn't the determining factor of where you're at in like expression of it. I don't know. Because you probably look around. There's 60, 70, 80-year-old dickheads and douchebags and people that are so hurt and judgmental and arrogant and righteous and entitled and closed-minded. And then you got people that are, you know, my age or even younger, that are open and learning and working on themselves and have developed a sort of peace or tranquility, you know? Whatever people talk about with like old souls, you know? It doesn't matter how many years you've been here. The amount of years you've been here determines how much of your karma you've fulfilled. It's kind of how I feel, is when you've been here for 60 years, you've fulfilled what you were supposed to. You've been fulfilling what you were supposed to for 60 years. And if what you were supposed to be fulfilling is just a kind of dull, closed-minded approach to life, that's what you've been doing for 60 years. But on the other hand, if you were supposed to recognize and learn and perceive some crazy shit at the age of 15, you're going to. And the contrast between, and I'm not talking about better and worse, I'm just talking about differences. And I'm talking about how age isn't indicative of wisdom. Not necessarily. Because it's kind of it's a subtle thing that I'm talking about. Because in some cases it is. In some cases, because you're your age, the amount that you've gone through, in comparison to someone who's younger and hasn't gone through that kind of stuff, you see a deeper level of it. That's very much so true. But I'll hold my point. I don't think it's about how old your body is. I think it's about what your body and your spirit, your soul, regardless of age, was meant to experience in that period of time. Because I'll admit to you guys, I'm 22 years old, and the shit that I'm like fascinated with and look into and have kind of in a way like why I'm out here right now, I was just out here meditating. Like, what am I doing? Why am I out here meditating at 22 years old? Like, the shit that I'm pulled by, there's not a lot of people around me that are my age that are into this kind of stuff. And maybe I'm sure there are. There's at least in my immediate surroundings, you know. A lot of people are more interested in, you know, getting girls and having sex and hitting the gym and going to college and drinking and just what I look at as completely like uninteresting and boring. And that's what all these people around me are doing. And I'm over here like looking into the nature of reality and philosophizing on what it means to be myself and what is this life and what are these feelings I have, and going into profound states of awareness and peace and love and all this stuff. And I want to emphasize there are most certainly people my age that are involved with this stuff, but I'm talking about my immediate surroundings. And even people well into their 30s and 40s and 50s and even that range. There's a dissociation between what I'm doing and how they live their lives. How I live my life and how they live their life. It's far out stuff. It's far out. But yeah, the point of this video is, it doesn't matter how old you are. Nothing crazy is going to happen at 25 unless beyond the turning 25, in a karmic way, in a destiny kind of way, you were meant to experience something on the day you turned 25 that drastically shifted your perspective of reality. That's the case where something drastic will happen at 25, or if it happens at 18, the day you become a legal adult. You know, if something crazy happens at the 18 that shifts you into this different state of awareness, that was meant to be. And it doesn't have to do, it could have happened at 12, it could have happened at 40, it could have happened at 18. It doesn't matter the age of the body when these spiritual and soulful developments take place. I hope you know what I'm saying here. Yeah, when I was a kid, see, and I still feel like a kid. I'm still a kid. Not only am I 22 years old, but I still feel like, and factually speaking, am that little kid. I am that same, those memories that I have in my mind of laying in my crib with my little stuffed animal, that's me. That's the one that's talking right now. That's me. That's this experience of Devonness, you know? I'm not a different person. I've gone through stuff. That's it. And we are in space and time, in this three-dimensional realm, space and time. Time appears to have been going on. Time appears to be moving right now. But all that's happening is unfoldings of fate. I don't know. I don't feel like growing up is as concrete a thing as it's made out to be. You know, you get the old people talking about, once you've walked your life in my shoes, then you can tell me this and that. You know, and they're over there doing just wrong stuff, negative, hurtful, abusive stuff. But they think because they're 50 years old or whatever, that they're like, they don't have to listen to you because you're just a young person that doesn't know shit. Once you're 50 years old, you'll be an asshole too. That's what I hear when they say that kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not just gonna transform into an asshole. That's not what growing up is. I don't think growing up is like a thing that happens. We change. Our motives and intents change. Our desires change. Our hobbies change. The way we communicate and talk changes. The way we word our sentences. What we do for fun changes. Our political belief systems, our spiritual belief systems, our religious belief systems change. It's all just change. Experiences that you go through change you and shape you and mold you. It's not like it's how old your body is. It's not about the body. If you know, my friend who's a little bit younger than me, a couple years ago got in a nearly fatal car accident. Prior to this car accident, he wasn't interested and fascinated in spiritual development and philosophy and looking into the self. He gets in a car accident and almost dies at 19 or something. And suddenly he's looking into reality and looking into the self and consciousness, and is able to communicate with me in a way we had never communicated before. Because he got in that car accident on that day, which was meant to happen. He was meant to swerve and crash and almost die to bring him to where he is right now as I speak, as we are here in this moment. Something happened, and it wasn't about how old his body was. It was about, it's deeper than that. It's deeper than the age of the body, is what I'm trying to say. And also, what I'm trying to say is you don't get wise from going around the sun. You get wise and you grow up, genuinely become mature through the fulfillment of your destiny. And you're only gonna get as mature as you're meant to get. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter how old your body is. You're gonna get as deep as you were meant to get in your life. And it could start at an early age or it could start at a later age. That part's completely aside from the point of the awakening. The awakening isn't because of how old your body is. The awakening is because of at what place in space and time you were meant to develop. You know? And what are the qualities of true maturation? What are the qualities of truly being a grown-up? Innately, it doesn't feel like stiffness and sternness and seriousness and not laughing as much, and the way it's kind of portrayed of grow up, you know? What the fuck do you mean grow up? What does that mean? Stop having fun? Stop being so joyful, you know? My grandfather's over there, and I'm thinking right now of going over and asking him on video what he thinks it means to grow up, because he's 80 something years old. No, he just got done mowing the lawn. I'm not gonna bother him. Oh shit. I feel like asking him. That's so funny. See, he's a beautiful person. He's not all stern and stiff, and he doesn't have this illusion and this delusion rather of I'm a grown up. That comes out of childlike immaturity. Thinking I'm older and I know. That's bullshit. Maybe when you're portraying it in the kind of way that I am right now, that's bullshit. But there are situations where, because you're older and because you've been through the thing, you see someone that's younger than you and you go, I don't think you've fully looked this over, but I might just kind of let you go through it so that you can see what I already am aware is going to happen to you. You know what I mean? That's different. But when you're putting off the whole completely egoic based, I'm wiser because I've whipped around the sun more than you have, that's bullshit. That if you're acting like that, you're not that mature. You're still working with and living on the states of mind that you have like as a little kid when you're a teenager. Of I know my self-awareness just got here and I'm getting older. Mom, I'm getting older. Dad, I know. You guys are lame, you know? I know what's up. That's what carries over into older ages where you're going, I'm older, I know. And now that because your body is old, you think you have some sort of righteous, like, one-up on people whose bodies are younger, you know? Especially when that person who's younger seems to be challenging your sense of reality. Old people don't like it when they get insecure that a younger person is on a track and is able to retaliate mindfully against what they're putting to them. Does that make sense? Older people don't like that. When an older person is insecure in their reality and a younger person comes along and says something that they know makes more sense, but they don't want to admit it, they say, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're younger than me. You don't know shit. You know what I mean? A truly old and wise person doesn't wear that cloak and that energy of I'm older so I know more than you. You know what I mean? They just show you they know more. And that doesn't even come down, as I've been saying, that doesn't even come down to the age of their body. They're just old and wise as fuck. Don't wait for the age to do it to you. Work right now. Work on yourself right now. Alan Watts talks about how, imagine a child that's a naturally good dancer, a child that just loves to swing it and dance as a little kid and has a great time dancing and dances so beautifully and freely and rhythmically. And then the parents and the parents' friends get around the baby, get around the little kid that dances, and says to the child, "Yo, do that dance for my friends." Suddenly the child realizes, oh, I gotta put on, I'm performing for these people. So it does it, and it's a little more weird and planned and organized and sequential and thought out. Not as poetically beautiful and free and abstract. And then the parents say, oh my God, we gotta get you into dance school. You like dancing, you're a natural dancer, we gotta get you into dance school. So they get the child and they put them in this room with all these written rules of how to dance and teach them how to dance and teach them not only how to dance, but to perform for people. That wasn't why the child was dancing in the beginning. Spontaneous dancing. And then when the child becomes a good taught dancer, it's only after years of practice that the now grown-up dancer is able to tap back into the childlike spontaneity of dancing. It's only after years of the tutoring and the tension of being taught how to dance. It's only after years that this person is able to tap back into the formless flow, the childlike flow of dancing with, not for someone, but dancing to dance. Not dancing because I'm a dancer, not dancing because these people paid to see me dance, but dancing just to dance. I always thought that was so beautiful. And he also talks about how when you're dancing, you don't dance to get to a certain part of the dance floor. You just dance to dance. And there's no destination. You're just dancing. And that's kids. That's the childlike spirit. Just dancing. And perhaps you've heard of the inner child in spiritual talk and spiritual communities and stuff, of healing the inner child, listening and recognizing and remembering the inner child. And I've even seen these meme type things go around where, like when my significant other is bitching at me or yelling at me or whatever and is being just mean, I look at a picture of them as a child and realize that that's who that is. And it's a little fluffy, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful of when you see these old, stern people that are hurt and being an asshole, think of the little baby they were and are. That's the thing, guys, is the child doesn't go anywhere. We are the child. We are that open child. And the world and its culture and conditioning tempers us. Like steel in fire, it warps. It distorts us, the pure child. And it's only after years of working on our distorted, grown-up selves that we begin to touch back into the child that we are, which loves and laughs and lets go of, grabs on super tight and then lets go, and makes a big deal and then lets it go. And is so imaginative and playful and fascinated and creative and unique and doesn't get embarrassed and shy and afraid of being itself and is just open and joyous and doesn't hold up this image of who it should be and doesn't give two shits what the person next to him thinks of them. That's the child. And that's why I have such a weird feeling towards the idea of growing up. Not only now, but like back when I was 12 years old and didn't even know the shit that I'm talking about right now, I felt it intuitively, guys. I felt it like, oh, this thing called growing up that I feel being forced on me. This isn't natural. I'm being pulled into something. Something's being laid on me. It was heavy. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. What's happening here? And then, 14 and 15, I kind of gave less of a fuck and was smoking weed and had a girlfriend and was swearing and like, being a little teenager that let go of his childhood. But I didn't like the feeling of growing up before, and that was before I even had any of the sort of like perspective on what I don't like about growing up. I just knew I don't like this feeling of not wanting to be like a little kid. I don't like this feeling of being like shy to say, or embarrassed to say that I still like play with toys and watch kids shows and act like a little kid. I don't like that, And there's such a bias in age. I see it. Maybe one day I'll understand. Maybe one day I'll understand. Maybe when I'm 25 I'll get it. Maybe it'll be 30. Maybe 35. It'll really make sense. And I'll go, oh, that was so silly. Maybe when I'm 40, it'll really hit. Doesn't matter how old the body is, guys. It matters. What matters and what determines all this shit I'm talking about is the experiences you have and the consciousness and the awareness to which those experiences are happening to, and how the experiences are affecting that consciousness. Growing up is an illusion. Don't fall into the trap. Don't harden your heart. Don't fucking snub out the burning fire of your inner spirit because you think you're supposed to. Because you stand out. Because you're different. Because your friends think you're being weird. Don't put that shit out. Don't water yourself down to comfort watered down people. That's so sad when you really think about it. Not only how much of us do that, but that we do it. It's sad. And because I started growing up. Like I was saying, 14 and 15, I started feeling like, oh, I'm a little badass. I'm kind of grown up. I'm smoking weed. I'm cool. I don't play with toys anymore. That's chill. I got girls and I got friends. I'm cool now. Like, I'm not a little kid. I'm fine with growing up. It's chill. But something in me still wasn't vibing with growing up at all. And when I discovered spirituality and psychedelics, I said, oh my fucking God, I don't have to grow up. There is no growing up. Magic is real. The wonder is here. It's right here. It hasn't gone anywhere. You know, holy fuck. I thought I was like changing into this different person, but like, I just made that up. I just made that shit up. I'm still the same being. In the world, and reality is fucking insane. Reality is crazy. Psychedelics and spirituality, mainly Eastern spirituality, things like Hinduism and Buddhism and Zen and Taoism, those kinds of things. That shit, I was like, oh my God, I'll be damned. Like, life isn't getting boring anytime soon. Life isn't dry and dull and serious and grown up and sophisticated like I was taught it was going to be. Life is fucking beautiful and infinitely wondrous and deep, you know? That's what that shit instilled in me. And I guess you could say the reason I'm here right now with this whole channel, damn, it looks like I have a second head, bro. That's trippy. What the fuck? The reason I'm even here right now and making this channel and involved with this shit is because of the love that I touched back into through discovering this stuff, you know? I started taking psychedelics because I was like, I'm kind of a hippie. I'm kind of a weed smoking, trippy, loving hippie guy. I'll try LSD. I'm a cool 16-year-old hippie. I'll take acid. And then I took acid and I was like, oh, after a few experiences, of course, but I was like, oh shit. Like ego death, existential crisis, dark night of the soul. Like, who the fuck am I? Why am I acting like someone? I'm literally a poser. I pretend to be this person every day, and I manufacture all these problems and then try to find my way out of them. I was like, wow, bro. Yes, psychedelics and spirituality showed me, like, hey, you're still here, bro. You're still that little character. You're still that spirit that you thought got beat out of you, you know, from the hardships of growing up, you know? Psychedelics and spirituality saved me in that sense. Woke me up back to who I was before I started undergoing the process of growing up, you know, which didn't really hold deep roots within me to begin with, because I was like, this doesn't feel right. Something's kind of phony here. Something's fishy about this whole growing up thing, you know? And psychedelics and spirituality said, yeah, it's bullshit, honestly, you know? It's fun to spill ideas and perspectives and just talk about shit with you guys. But yeah, that's really it. I could drag it on. I could just sit here and keep going like I usually do, but I just wanted to share that with you guys. My thoughts on growing up and what it means to grow up, and how it doesn't matter how old your body is. That's just how old your body is. It doesn't really have much to do with your soul and the work that soul is doing in this particular lifetime, in this particular incarnation. Those are just my thoughts. I don't even know what sort of fucking reality they hold. It's literally just formless energy coming out as words. Alright guys, I love you. Thank you so much for watching. Leave any comments of the thoughts you had. Have a wonderful rest of your night, guys. I'll see you. Thank you so much for watching.